Oh my god! Alright, we're in the garage again working on James Brown. I got the hot side all welded up, and naturally all the good looking welds are where you can't see them. It was a little bit of a learning process. I haven't done a whole lot of welding around tubing, so trying to stay like uniformly far away from it and keep the right angle while going around it. It took some practice, and unfortunately all the practice ones were at the visible sections, but you know, whatever. I mean, like towards the end here I started to get pretty decent, but it'll hold. That's all that matters. I'm gonna heat wrap it anyway. Even if they were nice welds, I was gonna heat wrap it just to try and keep the heat and velocity and everything in the pipe into the turbo there. And the turbo is, I mean, it's not bolted down, but it's got 2 bolts in there holding it in place. All the weight is on it. So that is where it's gonna sit. You can see I gotta notch this hood hinge a little bit, but that's not a big deal. Even if I had to, I could cut it all the way back here and just run 1 bolt on that side and 2 on the other side, and that would be fine. So I need to get some 3.5-inch piping in a V-band and make the down pipe. I'm still leaning towards taking it down there and then trying to do like a full exhaust with it. But that's gonna come down to budget and like time constraints. Because what I would like to do is August 9th and 10th is roadkill nights, and that's only a couple hours away from me. I would like to have this thing at least on the road by then. As far as August from here, like a month and a half? Yeah. A little over a month and a half. So that'll be tight. So the next step, trying to knock out as many things as I can without spending that much money right now. So I made a list with as many things as I could think of while sitting here yesterday. And I'm sure there's stuff that I forgot, so I left some spaces. But here's everything for the engine finish hot side. I can cross that off. I need a radiator, or I want to test fit that one and then run it in and see if, because it had a little pinhole leak somewhere. So I want to test fit this one and see if it'll work. If it does, I might just run that in and get that sealed up and stuff. If it doesn't, then there are some, like for a 72 Datsun 720, I think, whatever the pickup was, that would fit. I need to figure out something for the water pump, the intercooler and pipes, throttle body, because right now I've got everything for a drive-by-wire setup. Except I absolutely hate drive-by-wire. I like the concept of it, but in practice it drives like ass. His truck out there is drive-by-wire, and the pedal is just so touchy. Whenever you go over any bump, your like foot bounces just enough, and then you get kind of like caught up in this lurch, and everybody outside is probably like, why is this asshole just revving the truck? But I'd rather do drive-by cable. Plus then I wouldn't have to mess with the pedal down there, and I've already got the throttle cable right there. Needs to be fixed. Actually, that might be choke. Throttle cable somewhere around here. This might have been it. No, right here's the throttle cable. So yeah, throttle body. I need intake bolts because I got the intake over there, but there's no bolts for it. Injectors. I'm just gonna run some Snake Eater, probably 1500s. Because Brad at Snake Eater is awesome, and I think for the price you can't beat those injectors. Those are the same injectors I got in Goldie Hawn, and those things are sweet. Then like I said, I got to make the downpipe. I got waste gates on here, but I'll probably just do one off the housing. What I'm thinking is I'll probably weld like the V-band and stuff to the back side of the housing here, and then make like a mini pipe that kicks it up. That way it's right here and it's not going to get too close to the tire and shit like that. That's probably what I'll do, and then it won't be super difficult if I wanted to just dump that right back into the exhaust. And then turbo oil feed and drain and plugs and wires, and then obviously like the consumables, which I mean I got plugs there, but oil and stuff for it. And then there's all the stuff for the trans, the rear end. Yeah, I'm going to be running most likely a turbo 400 trans, maybe an 80E, but I doubt it. and I want stuff for that. And then there were a few people that for whatever reason thought I was going to be running the stock rear end, and I am going to run it for, well, maybe, because I'm going to have to get a drive shaft made. I would like to run the stock rear end for as long as I can, just to see, because I'm curious how much power that thing will hold up to. I've heard that people have made like 350 through it, and that's about the limit, but you know, just kind of curious. But the plan is to get like an Explorer 8.8 and then cut the one side down to narrow it to 3 inches. Pretty common like sloppy stuff, just Turbo LS, Turbo 400, 8.8. And then for the fuel system, I bought a fuel cell over winter from a subscriber, Nate, who was kind of bummed that I didn't use it on Jack Black, because that's what he originally sold it to me for. But I was saving that because I wanted to use it on the RX-7, because it's a really nice fuel cell. With the fuel cell or fuel tank or whatever having to be lower than the top of the tires, I was debating on just putting a sump in the stock tank, and then that way I don't have to cut up the floor. I will still be able to use the factory filler, and the fuel gauge and stuff will still work. So I might end up going that way, and if I do, sorry Nate. And then I'll just run a -8 feed, -6 return, some sort of filter in there somewhere. And then I haven't decided on the fuel pump yet, but something that will support at least 700, even though I'll probably stop it around 600 just to be safe. And then last but not least is just the electrical stuff. I need a harness and a new PCM, because like I said, the stuff that I got is for drive-by-wire. Need a map sensor, probably like a 3-bar. Boost gauge, AFR gauge I already got, but I need to install it. And I'd like to fix the wipers, which probably work. They're just not in there right now. Anyway, so that's the list of everything I could think of that needs to get done. I've got to put the shifter back in it too and get a cable. For the sake of doing stuff and trying to knock out like one thing here and there whenever I can, I'm going to try to get the alternator mounted. And like I've said, the goal for the thing is to keep the stock hood line, but I mean, that's like the long-term goal. The immediate goal is to get it running, driving, run a 10, well, drive to the track, run a 10, drive it back home. And to keep it within budget, instead of spending like 150 to 200 bucks on an alternator mount, and I have looked into them, they're about that range. Well, actually, there was one that I looked at that was $225 for just a fucking alternator mount. The cheapest one I found was, I think, from Dirty Dingo, and that one was like $159 or $140. I don't know. Anyway, for the sake of keeping the budget down, for now I'm going to reuse the stock truck power steering and alternator bracket. I'll probably just cut it right there, and that will stick up too high for the hood, but the hood's not the immediate goal, you know what I mean? Once that's in place and sitting there, at least, I want to set the radiator in to see what I got to do about the pump and see if that radiator even will come close to working. I was telling him a minute ago, what I've seen other people do is they'll cut these walls down and then smack it with a hammer, and the thing will crack right along those cuts. Yeah, fuck it. Cutting the bolts for the power steering pump, and I think I might have this thing cut enough to smack one out, so let's see what happens. I'm gonna turn it around. More surface area to hit on this side. Well, that didn't work. Fuck. Hurt my wrist a little bit when that thing let go. Alright, ended up drilling a bunch of relief holes and tapped it out of there. It shouldn't take much to clean it up. I'll probably just finish this cut here. Man, it's messy. I'll probably just finish this cut here, and smooth all this crap out. But for now, I just want to test fit it, see how everything's gonna sit, and then I'll come back and clean it up. Right. Yeah. It'll save money, but man, I don't know if I think I'll be able to live with it. That looks so dumb. That looks really dumb. Oh, that's so close, dang it. It's like a 1/4 inch from fitting. Dang it. That would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Alright. I just had what can only be described as too much meatloaf. But we figured out a temporary solution for the alternator. It only has one bolt in it. It's not actually touching the water pump yet, but it may. And that is like almost my entire body weight, and the thing's not twisting. So I do want to reiterate, temporary, but it'll work, honestly. And the tensioner will see more stress than that. Like if there's anything wanting to really pull on anything, it's going to be the tensioner. So that is just to meet the goal. All right, let me just repeat. The goal is get it running, drive it to the track, run a 10, drive it back home, and then I'll go back and fix some of the dumb stuff like this. But in all honesty, I do think that that would work for a little while. We could drill into the head and tap it for this bolt, but I don't really want to do that. So if there's money left over in the budget after this, I'll just spring for the alternator mount, but I think that'll work. And then I sat the intake on it because I like looking at it, and I wanted to not worry about the towel getting shuffled out of the way and stuff going down into the motor. It almost looks like there isn't much left to do. So I think that this will put the outlet at about the same place that the LS1 intake would. And then, let's see. Right here is the drive-by wire throttle body. And you can see that it way hits that thing. I'm not sure how much further out a drive-by cable one would go. But if I switch to like a, what is it, 2010 Camaro or an LS3 style one, then this comes straight out. So there's the tiny little stock radiator back in it. With the other style, that wouldn't be that big of a deal. Not really all that much progress, but some progress. So that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. We'll see you next time.